Welcome back, Whistle Watchers. Round 3 of the Six Nations has just been, and we have got a lot to unpack. And back from the Alps, or actually, was that Snowdon or Araria skiing? I'm not sure, but he's back anyway. How did the skiing go? How was the Alps?
Went all right, Nigel. It was all right. It was very stressful. 3 young kids. I think I've aged a year and a week, but managed to bookend it with the Wales Test matches, so that was good. Half term done and dusted. Let's have a look at what happened over round 3 of the Six Nations. Coming up on this week's Whistle Watch. What happens when a referee is injured? Finn Russell's quick kick-off? Should Joe Hawkins have seen red? We have a chat with Matthew Carley and Andrea Piardi. Should substitutes be allowed to enter the field of play to celebrate before tries are scored? All of this and more on this week's Whistle Watch. Nigel, let's start at Twickenham. I don't think anyone saw that result coming.
I didn't know.
It was an unbelievable performance from the Irish, to be fair to them. Quite a few incidents in that game. We're going to start with Tommy O'Brien and Freddie Stewart going up in the air, and that disallowed Gibson Park try. Such a common tactic in the game now. Everyone's watching those moments in the air like a hawk, aren't they? Now, these two go up, they collide in the air, ball ricochets, Gibson Park goes under the post, everyone thinks he's scored. Ref pulls it back and pings Tommy O'Brien. Why?
Yeah, it's a tough one, to be honest. We're seeing a lot more of that contest now because of the way that the referees are really strict on those sort of people blocking the chasers. So it's what we want. We want, a clear run, more contestable as well. I had this conversation before. When two guys are running for the ball, you can't hold back. Unless you get there, you're going to lose out. You're not going to get the ball. So you've got to get it as fast as you can. If one guy decides to jump a split second earlier than the other one, that means, and take into account the height, different height of the players, if you're a tall guy, then if you were jumping for a ball against Shane Williams, for example, if you're jumping even the same time, you're going to get higher than him. That does not mean then that he is not in a place to contest for the ball. The fact because you're higher and you've got higher, there's no way he can get any higher. So it's a very, very difficult one. So what happens here is they both go up. I think the England full-back sort of beats him to it slightly, a split second before he gets up in the air, which means O'Brien now is not in the same sort of height as him. There's a bit of a collision. The ball spills. I can follow the penalty, but not because there was no contest for the ball. For me, it's more to do with the fact that as he came down, he put his hand on him and then caused that afterwards. If he hadn't have done that, I'd have been more inclined here to play on as a fair contest.
It's a fair contest, yeah.
So it's a tough one. It's a very, very difficult one to ping for, I think, for an unfair contest, but certainly one I could follow because that little sort of lever down the hand at the end, that would be what takes it to a penalty for me. But everything before that, I thought, ooh, that's a tough old penalty.
Yeah. It looked a fair contest, but as soon as you put the arm on the player,
you do
bring them down, it looks like you're impeding that player going for the ball. So, good answer. Right. First of our Emirates fan questions. Let's have a look at the first one from Hilberry Abel. Nice name. Right. England scored a try, right, 21 minutes. It's about 5 non-players. So this happens, right? The substitutes are warming up in the dead ball area opposite the side that your team... So essentially behind the try line that you're going to score in. Players often enter the field of play because they're warming up there whilst the game is going on and the ball is coming near them. Obviously, I've been in the situation where you're warming up on the bench. You're supposed to leave the area, aren't you? But what about players coming into that area before the ball is being put down to score and celebrating? Because we've seen it a few times in this tournament. It hasn't happened or it hasn't affected players such, but it's going to happen at some point. Right?
It is, yeah. And that's the reason why you warm up in opposite way, because if you are going, so let's say now then in this situation here, if the subs running on affected something, then that would be your own fault. Your team would have scored, but you've affected the defence, so you've come on the field, you've gone to celebrate before they've grounded the ball, they've lost the ball or whatever, that's your own fault. So if you do cause something, it's going to be against your team. That's why they
not
put
necessarily
them there.
Because we are waiting for an incident to happen where it might affect a defending player.
Well, yeah, but then they try to be chalked off, you see. So if your team prevents a defender getting at to prevent a try being scored, then that would mean the referee would chalk that try off. Or would say, well, hey, it's your own fault, you know. Or,
So the fact you warm up the opposite
Yeah.
ends actually mitigates
so
this whole
so it
process.
mitigates if there becomes an issue. Now the other question is, do we really need to see this? Do we need to have a word with the team and say, look, find a warm up, but when they're getting into the 22, you need to step out and don't enter into that goal area zone until play becomes dead, until a try is scored. Yeah. There is another argument to say, do you really want substitutes to come on and celebrate with the team? That's another discussion as well. So in general, if something does happen, it'll be at the detriment of your own team if you do it. So it does sort of equate that question. But again, the values of it is this something we want to see? Is this something we need to have a word and say, look, we need to be stricter on the protocol of what you can do when you're warming up and the fact that you're going to celebrate.
All right, so we're lucky to have Andrea Piardi with us. Unfortunately, had to come off injured at Twickenham on the weekend. Andrea, how are you? Talk us through what happens. Not very often we see a referee get injured, mate. How are you?
Hi, Nigel. Hi, Jamie. Yeah, I was quite unlucky, but these things can happen during the game, in our career, in our job. So what happened, I felt like a pop in my quad while I was sprinting after Jos van der Vlier made a line break, and I knew straight away that was not right.
It's always difficult to make the decision, isn't it, to sort of come off if it's a bit of niggle, but obviously you had to go off. There's no way you could carry on, was there?
Yes, of course. I would have loved to continue the game, but I knew straight away that it was quite a bad one. And I couldn't run, I couldn't walk properly. So that's why I stopped immediately, and I asked Pierre to take charge of the game.
Yeah, I saw you before you went off. You pulled Maro and Ken and Doris over to have a brief chat with them. What was said in that moment?
About the conversation that I had with the two skippers, I just said them that was tough for me to leave the field. I was enjoying so much in a great game of rugby, the great environment in Twickenham, special game, but this is what it is. And they wished me the best, and they said thanks, Andrea, for the game, and hope you recover well. So great guys as always.
Cheers, Andrea. Right, what are the next steps for you?
Yeah, I had a scan yesterday evening, and I have a tear in my quad, a grade 2. So we stay out between 4 and 6 weeks. It's all depends about the next days and how my body will react to the treatments.
Hey, thanks, Andrea. Thanks for jumping on the call, and good luck with the recovery.
Cheers, buddy. Right, Nige, did this ever happen to you? And what is the protocol for when a referee gets injured?
I was very lucky. Very, very lucky in my career.
Yeah.
Very, very few injuries. I think in 25 years of refereeing, tweaked a calf out for a game, never came off. And then World Cup semi-final 2019. I'd done about 10 games, international matches in a period of about 3 months, a lot. And I tweaked my calf 25 minutes into the game. But the England-New Zealand game, if you remember, it was such a brilliant game of rugby. Yeah. You could just...
It was a really slow game as well, wasn't it?
It was hell. You could just orchestrate it, you know. You didn't need to get in and sort the contact area. You just could manage it, and got to the end.
So talk us through the process.
Owen Farrell said to me at the end of the game, he said, "Thanks for that game, Nigel. You see you in the final now." I said, "You want to see me? Calf's gone." He said, "Where did that go?" And it was in the first half. Okay. It didn't show. I said, "Well, no. Experience." So what happens is that when they make the appointments, it's not simple making international matches appointments. One, you've got to pick the right guy for the game. You've also got a balance then of giving people experience to bring the next generation through to challenge referees. And also then you've got to make sure that you've got 2 assistant referees on the sideline capable of doing the work as well. And one of those assistant referees, and this will be the key, the number 1, so AR1, assistant referee 1, will also be the reserve referee, the sub-referee. So if a referee goes down injured, he goes on. If he goes down, then AR2 will go on. Don't ask me if the 3 of them go down. The TMO is going to come down on the box. Well, it could happen, couldn't it? But what happens then, in the game, so on Saturday, you would have had 2 English, AR3 and AR4. So they basically just manage and look after the subs. Fine. So one of them went on then to become AR2 for that game. Very rarely it does happen, but it does occasionally, as we saw on the weekend, and those are the contingency plans in place.
Just after half-time, there was another incident. Tad Furlong with Tom Curry. It was that clean out, and Curry actually goes back on his knees. I mean, it looked like he could have suffered a nasty knee, well, to both knees, but fortunately he was okay. It was deemed a rugby incident. How did you see it?
Yeah, rugby incident. The 2 players just come in, nobody doing anything illegal. Curry's down very low. Tad Furlong comes in to do what you would naturally do. He doesn't have what we call a sort of a line of sight where he can see where Curry is, but still carries on with this, knowing that there's a risk that he's going to catch him in the head or something. So it's a complete rugby collision. We can do everything we can to make the game as safe as we possibly can, but at the end of the day, it is a collision sport, and sometimes collisions do happen. And even though when you look at this, you're going, oh my God, that looks bad, but it was just a rugby collision. So there's no foul play taking place because there was nothing anybody could have done to avoid it, what happened.
And Curry's changing height late as well.
And he's down very, very low and stuff as well, yeah. Now, if Tad Furlong had plenty of time, Curry's gone down low, Tad Furlong then, I know where he is, he's there, but bugger, I'm going to carry on, and then causes a head contact or something, and that'd be different. But in here, there's nothing. All the dynamics happen so quick, nothing nobody can do to avoid what happens, and that's what you call a rugby collision.
Right, Nigel. Game of the weekend in Cardiff,
down
the road.
What an atmosphere.
It was unbelievable. And Wales much improved. Scots managed to find a way, didn't they? Snuck victory from the jaws of defeat right at the end. Quite a few incidents, so let's get to it. Joe Hawkins, high tackle on Gregor Brown. How often do we see this? You know, player carrying upright, and it's that kind of stingy tackle, isn't it? He's caught him square in the chin, you know, a big ricochet, so it looks quite nasty. Did he deserve red?
Right, yeah, so it's a tough one, okay? Because even though I tend to I like the yellow card for it, that's what I believe that type of incident should be. So Hawkins is always upright, okay? And what they sort of said was the reason why it came from a red down to yellow was a passive tackle, which means the guy's coming into you and you're absorbing the hit, rather than you going into him. I don't really think you can say that. I don't think you can say that Hawkins was absorbing the tackle, but I also agree that he's not lunging forward with the shoulder into the head, but he certainly is in that forward motion and his contact to the head. The player is being tackled from behind, so he is coming down. But you think about it, his head is, although he's coming down, his head is hitting the player's shoulder, who is actually upright, so he's not coming down. Yeah. So I was struggling, thinking, well, how do they land up with a yellow here then when we have these pictures and these dynamics? I think most of the impact, the big impact, was through the sort of chest area first rather than direct head onto shoulder, I think. And then that sort of pulled the degree of danger down a bit. But it certainly was a tight one. But I do think that yellow is the right outcome, yeah.
You're right, Joe got lucky. Right, Nigel. To another referee now, a colleague of yours, Matthew Carley, 50th test on the weekend.
Yeah, well done, congratulations.
Very, very special occasion for him. And he's also going to give a chat to us about this Darcy Graham try. Matt, good to see you. Thanks for joining us. Congratulations, mate, on your 50th.
Yeah, well done, congratulations.
How did you find the match, buddy? Emotional experience?
Yeah, it was a really special occasion at the weekend. 50 test matches, just the 50 short of you, Nigel. Match was amazing. Really enjoyed watching it back, which sometimes isn't the case when you watch back your own games, but just in terms of a game of rugby, it was a brilliant watch, and it was extra special to see Cardiff back to how it should be, with the crowd well behind Wales, the anthems so amazing, and in terms of it being an emotional experience, yeah, I was telling some of the boys pre-game, my late grandfather actually took me to Cardiff as a little bit of a rite of passage for my 18th birthday for a weekend to watch England versus Wales in 2003, which makes me feel old, but I looked up to where we sat that day, and it's brought special memories back. But to do my 50th game in that stadium, which is renowned, and I think many referees talk about it as their favourite place to go, in a special game between the two of the historically great Celtic nations, was a really special experience and one that I won't forget in a hurry.
Matt, were you able to celebrate in Cardiff after the game? Was your old man down there watching with you?
Yeah, got a good chance to celebrate after the game. Ian Davis and the WRU were brilliant about accommodating some of my close family, and had my dad and my sister and my dad's partner there in the crowd, and we got to enjoy the post match at the stadium. And then when we went back to the Hilton, my nephew and his partner joined us for a drink, so it was nice to share that with them, and then also to have Carl and Tempo and Adam and Eric with me on the game, who are people who I've shared many games with out of my 50 test matches, and we shared some stories of games we've been involved in together, some funny times that we've had together when we've been touring or when we've been in camps, and just to sit back and enjoy it and be happy that we were involved in such a great game of rugby was a real special evening, and one, again, similar to the game, something that you treasure and you won't forget in a hurry.
Yeah, Matt, no doubt you had a nice time. Congrats again, buddy. Right, let's get to it. Darcy Graham try, Finn Russell, moment of genius from him after Jared Evans kicks the kick. Now, some have suggested maybe the wrong ball was used or Scotland weren't allowed to do it. Wales had to be better set. How did you see it? Were all the laws followed correctly?
Yeah, so the Darcy Graham try, so peculiar. But I remember thinking at the time that it was after the kick of goal had been successful from Wales, that Finn Russell had run past me a little bit quicker than normal. So then you're alerted, and your sort of senses are sort of heightened to what's going on around you. So I knew that the two main things that I needed to be aware of once the ball had been delivered to the pitch was that Wales were onside and ready to receive the kick, and in law that's obviously behind their own 10-metre line. So it was a quick scan to ensure that was the case, and then I needed an awareness of the fact that where the Scotland players were in relation to the kick-off, and ensure that they were onside when Finn Russell kicked the ball. Really good teamwork and connection to the game from Adam, who'd worked his socks off to get into as good a position as he could upfield from the kickoff, so that he was quite close to where the ball landed, and then he could judge any challenge or competition and then see the grounding. I remember feeling at the time that everything had kind of gone into slow motion, and I think for everyone in that moment, but in terms of legality, 100% happy. And then obviously you've got Tempo and Eric in the background, who did their little sweep to make sure that what we'd seen on field was correct, and 7 points to Scotland, and a try that will be replayed for years to come, I'm sure, on highlight reels and of the Six Nations. So yeah, not much more to say other than it was a strange moment, but one I think we can be pleased that we identified and we were up with and aware of, and allow Scotland to score 7 points in that situation. So easy to stop the game and be cautious, but we wanted continuity, we want flow in the game, and they ticked all the boxes they needed to be able to take their chance.
Right, Matt, appreciate the time. Congrats on your 50th again, buddy.
Thanks for that, Jamie, and your time, Nigel. I look forward to my next match. First of all, look forward to a weekend off and some family time. Deserved, I think, after the weekend, which was emotionally and as well as physically draining. And then I'll be back down in Cardiff with my flag to support Christoph as best I can for the Wales-Italy game, and hopefully the Millennium Stadium will be rocking again. And it's just another 50 games to go to catch you up, Nigel, for that 100, which I, again, remember so fondly, although it be in COVID times, to be with the person who got to 100 caps first was an amazing experience. So to be halfway there again is privilege. So thank you very much, and hope to catch up with you again soon.
Right, Nige, what were your thoughts on that try? It changed the whole game, didn't it? It kind of swung the momentum towards Scotland.
Yeah. Well, nothing wrong with it. So what are you going to do? You've got to allow the opposition to get back over their own 10-metre line, basically. So you just can't run up there and take it, and the Welsh players are still in the Scottish half going back. So they've got to have time to go back to the 10 metres line. The fact that they got back to the 10 metres line and didn't turn around to see what was happening next, then that becomes their problem.
Well, let's talk about the Croc roll, okay? And one went against Thomas Williams on Rory Darge, who's jackling over the ball. Now he's missed the clean, he hasn't got the right height. Darge is over the ball, he's gone over the top of him, and he's croc rolled him. He's turned him off the side. Now, is this technically a croc roll?
No,
Was
it's
it
not.
a penalty?
No. There's a difference. So it's a couple of things here. First of all, people are mixing up between a croc roll and a neck roll. So neck roll is you grab somebody around the neck and you twist them and pull them off. So that's a neck roll, okay?
Yeah.
What we saw happen a little bit later and correctly penalised. In this instance, the croc roll was a ploy used by teams, because when you get those guys coming in so low and basically on players on the ground, you just can't move them. So what happens then, the players grab them and pull them off. So the croc roll was deemed, and I've been saying this for years, was really dangerous, because you were grabbing a player, and what you were doing then, you were doing that croc roll twist. So you were twisting the player away, and this player's lower limbs then could be in the ground at risk or stuck into the player and could cause a real serious injury. So they clamped, last year I think it was, they said, we're going to make this illegal, and quite rightly so as well. But in this instance, it's slightly different. You don't have a croc roll here. So you have Thomas Williams coming in, he grabs a player, and he sort of pulls him then, like players do, pulling players over or pushing a player off. He doesn't twist him. There's no danger here in the player's legs being twisted. There's no croc roll action. He sort of grabs him and pulls him down onto the ground. So this then, one, it's not deemed to be a croc roll, and one is deemed not to be serious or dangerous. So just remember, as I said earlier, any action, whether it's in law or outside of law, what anybody thinks, any action that the referee deems that is dangerous, he can deal with it, okay? And that goes throughout, the player safety is paramount. But this action wasn't dangerous, and it wasn't a croc roll. So then the TMO then should not have come in for this. And remember as well, we're looking at a TMO to come in for something that is clear and is obvious. Okay. And this was certainly not a clear and obvious croc roll, not even a croc roll. So this should not have been penalised.
Okay, so I'm going to challenge that. I'm going to ask you a question. Now, if that motion that Thomas Williams made, it causes an injury to Rory Darge, and he's screaming in pain on the floor, ankle is caught in the deck, or I don't know, the nearer side knee is caught and his knee's twisted, and he's seriously hurt himself. Do you referee that differently then?
No, because first thing of all, the first thing you have to realise here is it foul play?
Is the action illegal?
Is the action illegal? So the same, if you were to tackle somebody, you give a massive hit and you injure the player, well, if you tackle him legally, what am I going to penalise you for? Now, if you've gone in shoulder first and you've caused an injury, then yes, that means you have caused an injury, a serious injury by an illegal action, and that may then trigger me to think, well, I may have yellow carded this, but what you caused here, serious injury, you're red, you're off. Now, you don't tend to think of it like that. You actually deal with the facts, but that is something that has been spoken about with referees, is if you're actually admitting that your actions are illegal, and that illegal action has caused, let's say, that guy to, I don't know, break his leg, then why should you just have a yellow card? That guy is out for 8 weeks, and you've caused it by being an illegal action. Yeah. So then does that mean what normally would have been a yellow card without the outcome, does that change? So there is a big conversation around that, and there's no sort of real direction or sort of set rule to it. But if you go back to the Tad Furlong on the Tom Curry one, it's not illegal. There is no act of foul play. Right. So the Thomas Williams actions is not foul play.
What would have made that Thomas Williams action illegal then? Is it dropping his weight straight down?
So twisting him and dropping weight down then on that player's lower limbs. What he does, he sort of grabs him and sort of pulls him to the side safely, really, in Owens, so there's no foul play there.
Yeah, cool. Good explanation. Right, that's it for this week's Whistle Watch. Remember, no episode next weekend. Fallow week in this year's Six Nations. See you soon enough in a couple of weeks' time for Whistle Watch Round 4.